No, I'm checking your heart.
I was a medic in Salt Lake for a few years. One rainy day, my partner and I got dispatched to a fairly upscale neighborhood on a call of chest pain. Chest pain means flashing lights and sirens. We quickly arrive in front of a pretty nice house and find a woman standing at the curb with 2 suitcases packed. Already a red flag. I shut down the siren but kept the lights going for safety. We ask if she called 911 and she confirms. She steps into the ambulance, sits on the bench, and asks us to get going. I tell her we need to do a full workup before we leave, so we can provide care en route and take her to the right facility. She says she doesn't really have chest pain. She has a procedure scheduled at the hospital, and she wants me to turn off the flashing lights so her neighbors don't notice and ask her questions. Obviously, this is M's abuse, and I tell her so. Suddenly her chest pain is back. So I say I need to get vitals and start an ECG. She protests again, mentioning the start time for her appointment in less than 30 minutes. And so I ask her point blank, "Do you need medical attention or do we need the police?" I proceeded to do a full workup in front of her house, taking my sweet ass time, asking enough questions to make her eyes roll, and leaving the strobe lights on the whole time so the neighbors would see. And she was late to her appointment because we admitted her to the hospital through the instead of the front doors. If you have a procedure coming up, and now you developed chest pain, that procedure is going to get tossed. No anesthesiologist is gonna touch the patient without full cardiac workup and another cardiac clearance from cardiologist. My paramedic brother finally got out of the profession and went back to firefighting. He was old school when you were a firefighter first. When he was reprimanded for suggesting a frequent patient may need psychological help instead of an ambulance every other day, he threw in the towel at the workload and just decided to go inside burning buildings instead. Does she realize ambulances won't take her home? Similar MC. Night shift on the Band-Aid wagon. We get a lot of calls arising from police encounters, usually involving warrants, arrests, that suddenly precipitate urgent medical issues. It's a well-established fact that hospitals have more comfortable beds and better turkey sandwiches than jail. And if you're lucky, your offense warrant is relatively minor, and the police department is busy. They won't have the resources to hold you in custody through a 3-hour chest pain workup in the ER. Get out of jail free card. Get dispatched emergently to a call for difficulty breathing and chest pain at or unsuccessfully running from police. On arrival, young 20s dude clearly not in medical distress. Prefect vital signs. Insists he needs a val at hospital. Shift has been long, full of BS and abuse, and this call is holding the unit over past shift end time. QMC. In my area there is often kind of an unspoken understanding, for better or worse. When it comes to emergent incarceritis calls, you do the assessment, keep treatments minimal while fulfilling ethical and legal requirements, transport quickly and try to free up the resources for actual emergencies. The medically stable subject is often directed to triage if is busy, then walks out after EMS leaves and before being admitted to a room. That's definitely what the expectation was in this case. Wasn't having it. Chest pain, breathing differential as heart attack, arrhythmias, blood clots in lungs, collapsed lung, etc. Full assessment, cardiac monitor, 12-lead EKG, vascular access. Dude gets all confused why he's suddenly covered in wires and getting stuck with needles. Sure. The symptoms you're telling us are highly concerning for conditions that are immediately life Threatening. We are taking you at your word and taking every measure to ensure your safety and survival. Deliver him to ER and he has to go to a room due to IV in place and cardiac monitoring. Nurse is pissed off, but police are entertained and decide they have the resources to sit with the fellow through his workup to give moral support and make sure he comes out okay. Oh, and to take him the rest of the way to jail when he gets discharged. That too. Geez, an ambulance ride is way more expensive than a taxi. Should have taken her to a different hospital in the other direction. What you see. Ambulance. What Mima sees. Taxi. We had a lady call 911 and come code 3 to the just to leave AMA with a taxi voucher to go where she needed to go. She did that like 17 times in 3 months. So much fraud, waste and abuse of the systems. I hate those patients. When they do shit like this, I always bluntly ask why they called an ambulance and not a taxi. A ride in the ambulance is around $800. A taxi may be $30. But most people have insurance that covers the fee. In BC, natives get free ambulance rides. My best friend is from a reservation in the middle of the province. There's a casino in town. On a Friday night, it's apparently common to call for chest pains right after lunch. The Band-Aid bus drives all the way out to the reserve. The old guy gets loaded in. And his concerned wife gets in the front. Back into town to the hospital. And a short exam to get an all clear. Then they go to dinner and then the casino. I have no personal knowledge. But my friend used to rant about it constantly because he knew the person's doing it. And it twice delayed his grandmother getting urgent care. I always thought the local health region should just pay for a minibus to go to the reserve before dinner. And come back at midnight. Gotta be cheaper than the ambulance and hospital costs. My goodness. I hope her chest pains get better. Exclamation mark. So annoying when you're called for the wrong reasons. I had many calls on holiday weekends when taxis were difficult to find and public transport was not running. At the time, we were not permitted to discharge at scene and had to load and convey. The callers were generally drunk and wanted to go to a hospital, which turns out was near their home. My response to this was to assess they needed to go to a specialist center dealing with their reported complaint, which just happened to be some distance in the wrong direction. We had one woman who would call 911 with an emergency every time her husband had an appointment. Because his chair lift from the porch to the driveway was broken and she didn't want to spend the money to get it fixed. So she'd just have whoever responded carry him out. Eventually we, fire department, were the ones called for a lift assist. And unbeknownst to anyone else at the station, one of our guys who responded managed a quick fix on the lift. But told her it wasn't going to last and she needed to have it repaired. A couple months later, she calls the station and demands we come out and fix that lift again because XXX ambulance was coming to transport him and they refused to lift him anymore. She was nasty right from the get-go and I ended up taking her number and telling her I'd call her back. After a bunch of phone calls, I found out the above. Plus XXX ambulance was not coming to transport. That company is owned by one of our officers. I called him and he immediately recognized the address and said they were blacklisted. Long story short, one of our higher-ups ended up calling her back and telling her to fix her own damn chairlift. And our guys were told, do not do repairs on things anymore. No good deed goes unpunished. I'm really confused as to why she thought this was the best option for a ride to the hospital. Did she expect to get there faster? Be treated faster? I'm lost. Maybe she has no friends or family to give her a ride because she acts like this kinda nutty twat all the time. I had to call an ambulance for myself for the first time ever because I thought I was having a heart attack. I was scared to death and sobbing in my yard. Got put in the wagon, hooked up to all their machines and given baby aspirin just to discover my heart looked great, which made me cry more from relief and terror of just what the hell was wrong inside me. My chest hurt and my arm was numb. And I was like, what the hell? Single quote. Got transported and came to find out my gallbladder was failing, which my PCP probably could have handled had I waited 3 days to go to him instead of wasting EMT's time. Embarrassing. Why do you need 2 packed suitcases for a medical appointment? Every nth patient in my ER for the past few months. I have lower back pain. Okay. We'll have to do a lot of tests including putting a lubed finger up your butt. Oh. My pain is gone now. But while I'm here, can you do my COVID jab to save me booking an appointment? Quote. I'm sorry, sir. We don't provide COVID vaccinations here. They're another building and organization entirely. You will have to wait and book the normal way like the rest of the country. Now, if you would kindly roll onto your side and lift your knees to your chest. Should have turned the siren back on, too. When I had chest pains, I begged the ambulance driver to take me to the hospital that I was treated for an actual heart attack weeks before. I wanted to go there because that's where all my doctors are based out of. I was told by the ambulance staff that I had to go to the nearest emergency room to where they picked me up from. If I had known that, I would have driven myself. Positive suitcase sign. Yep, familiar with the disease.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.